What do you think happens after we cross over or die? Where do we go? What do we see? Who's going to be there? There's so many questions, and all of those questions I have been researching and pondering over the past year and a half. I have literally been obsessed with learning and figuring out what happens after we die. Welcome to Dirty Talk, the show where we cover all things spiritual, sexy, and spooky. I'm your host, the Dick Witch. I was a soon-to-be psychologist turned psychic medium, and I have dedicated the last pretty much 3 years of my life just to studying and furthering my knowledge so that way I can share it all with you. So I'm very, very excited. Every single episode is going to start off with a collective reading, a little bit of knowledge on maybe the tarot card that I've pulled for the day, and then we'll just get right into it. And if you guys would like to join our community or share your opinions, feel free to. The Discord should be linked wherever you're listening. Let's just get right into things today. The collective reading for today starts with the Fool card, which I think is so symbolic. It's so beautiful, especially for this being the first video or the first, wherever you're listening to this episode of the podcast. I just think it's so interesting that it came out first because I believe, and somebody can correct me either in the YouTube comments or in Discord, I believe the Fool is the first card in the deck. It is card 0, and it talks all about journeying into the unknown, taking a step into the unknown. So a lot of you people that are listening today could have maybe I just started a new business, could have started a new relationship, started working at a new place, started school, whatever it is. I feel like this is all about new beginnings. Maybe you've been wanting to kind of have that push or something to push you in the direction of starting something new. This is your sign to do so. Now is the perfect time. And I'm actually going to start to flip around some of the other cards here as well. Yes. Oh my God. We have Violet, royalty, power, ambition, luxury, nobility. A lot of you are really stepping into this new empowering time in your life where you're realizing just how much you actually deserve. And it's not always like, I don't know, they're even saying it's not so much of an ego thing, but it's not an ego thing, but it's also sort of kind of is, like pushing yourself outside of your boundaries and realizing that you deserve more at any time in your life. If you're feeling stagnant or uncertain, or, like if a partner is just making you feel like, I don't know if this is really it, it's probably not. And it's time to really accept something more for yourself, I'm getting like toxic work environments too. Like if you've been really wanting to make that push, obviously I always recommend that people have another job already lined up. Not the same thing for a partnership, go into the world of independence, the blindness of it, the unknown, and just really, really embrace it because you never know what you're going to find in that. Not just that, but we have my destiny is in your hands, longing, missing you. A lot of you guys could actually be missing like this childlike version of yourself. I was just watching this video of Ariana Grande where she was talking about her brand new album and where she really felt like she stepped into human Ari, as she says. She kind of stepped away from pop star Ari and became human Ari. And so this is kind of the same thing. It's like you guys might be longing or missing this like version of yourself that you used to like have, or maybe you were like more like this as a child or something, but you're really, really missing that now. And this is kind of your sign saying, go back to that. Maybe step away from whatever is kind of like not really feeling like the direction that you're supposed to, or like causing stagnancy or whatever, and step into something that is really making you feel like the person that you've always wanted to be, your highest, best version of yourself. I just saw like a painter too. So like getting more creative, becoming more artistic and creatively inclined is really going to help a lot of you out in the future. So that's that. Moving on to our beautiful wild rose card, we have pleasure and pain, adoration and hidden secrets. So this is really cool. I feel like a lot of you guys could maybe be getting some hate right now or love or whatever it is, like kind of a mix of both. Some evil eye, some regular eye, some good intention eyes and blessing eye. And I feel like it's really actually a beautiful thing because it just shows and it proves to you that you're doing something right. That's like one of my favorite sayings. It's actually from one of these celebrities. Like I forget where it was, but it was at like this like award show or something where this person was like, you know what? The way that I dress this evening is either going to really piss people off or it's going to really make them happy. But if I'm anywhere in between, I really don't feel like I'm doing it right. So I just love to live by that saying. And especially with this wild rose card, the pleasure and the pain, it's all kind of like the lesson of growing, isn't it? Like, of course, there are going to be some like more painful energies coming our way, yes, but that's just a part of life. And going back to the Fool card with the unknown, that is the unknown, right? It's pleasure and it's pain because we don't know what to expect. But going back to the Royalty card, I feel like you guys are really starting to expect a lot more for yourself, happier endings, happier times. And if those anxious, fearful thoughts are coming into your mind, you're really, really changing those around and turning them into something that's a lot more positive and a lot more fulfilling. Finally, woo! Yeah, and that's interesting because we're landing on the Delphinium card, which speaks about cheerfulness, goodwill, remembering loved ones. So I feel like at times like this, and again, the loved ones kind of makes me think about your ancestry, your ancestors, your spirit guides. Remember that those are the people that are guiding you. And so at any point in time where you feel like you're alone or you're like going into the unknown, it's not actually the unknown. Like the people who are guiding you already know where you're going. You just have to sort of trust them and go with the flow. Not just that, but embracing more of this beautiful, cheerful side to yourselves. Remembering the goodwill of the world, of the universe, and remembering that people in their entirety are actually good. There's a lot of good and beauty in this world. Yeah, and I've been getting this channeled message for a long time, so I'm just going to say it here, but getting into the flow of good karma, right? Racking up good karma. How can we do this? Especially after periods of like stagnancy or whatever else is going on. I feel like racking up good karma is always just a thing to do. So, how can you do this, right? You can do this by opening the door, maybe not just for one person, but for a group of people. If you see somebody that is maybe, I don't know, like what comes to mind of initially is like an elderly woman, right? She's like got a full cart, she's shopping by herself, she's going back to her car. Maybe help her load the groceries into her car. Maybe be there for her and help her do that. And you never know who you might meet through that or who might be a new connection just through helping them out. Or if you see somebody that dropped everything on like the side of the road, they're like scrambling to pick everything up. You never know who you're going to meet through either that person or through that one occurrence, or not even so like ego driven too. They're telling me because they're always saying pull back your ego a little bit, reassess the situation. We're doing this to help out other people. And to help out other people encourages other people to be kind. Like if you guys have ever seen like the pay it forward kind of thing, like that kind of experiment to see how far people will go, like how many people will actually pay it forward. And it's a lot of people at the end of the day. Like it's a lot of people that end up, yeah, of course, I'll take the next person's. Like, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll take the next person's, it just keeps going because people want to be a little bit of that relief or a little bit of that like kindness and just share like even if it's like, I'm just going to buy your drink today. Like, that's it, Like, I don't know. I just think thinking about more of that positivity, thinking about more of the energetic flow that good karma will bring us if we just continuously keep it up, And if you smile at somebody that looks like they're having a bad day, or I love those videos where people will like pass out flowers, like they'll buy a bouquet of flowers and then they'll just go downtown or wherever is the most popular, wherever is the most busiest, and they'll just hand out roses to people that look like they need a rose for the day, It's all about getting in the flow of good karma and increasing and encouraging more of that beautiful, wonderful good karma in our life, because the more that we do that, the more that it is going to multiply and spread throughout our entire lives. So the Fool card, a great card, you guys, great card. And just to speak a little bit more on the card too, he has a dog at his feet because I feel like there's a lot of things that are like warning him from the journey, you know, like there's a lot of things that are trying to be like, okay, you have to realize that this is a risk, but it's going to be worth taking, you know? And I always think about the Fool card. I think about actors, actresses, people starting businesses, people, you know, all over the world have taken these risks, have already gone down these paths before we've even walked them. And that alone makes you feel less alone in the situation, you know? That alone makes you feel less alone because there's always people that have done this before you and people have risked even bigger and even better things, and things have worked out for them even better than they could have even imagined. So always keep that in mind. You know, it's not really the fool, it's kind of the smart person because it's worth the risk at the end of the day. But yeah, that's all that I have for the reading for today. But let's go on ahead and move into our topic of the day. I'm very excited for it. Woo! To start this off, I'm actually going to quote something by the author or poet T.S. Elliot. And this actually made me come across like the biggest epiphany that I think I've ever had in my entire life, you guys. So I thought that this was pretty crazy. And this is why it was the perfect first topic about this today, because I could literally talk about this forever. So let's just jump right into it. The quote says, and this is from his poem, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. And I actually discovered this because it's one of Emma Watson's favorite poems, favorite books. I don't think it's a book. It's definitely a poem. But like that's what came up when I looked up what she loves to read, because I'm a big Emma Watson fan. She is just such an amazing and beautiful scholar. And I just love to read whatever she reads. I feel like she has such great taste in books and everything. But anyways, the last line in this poem says, "Till human voices wakes us and we drown." And while very, very simplistic, I wanted to just break this down along with the epiphany that I had. So, till human voices wake us and we drown. This basically made me realize that before we even are officially dead, as long as we stick to the correct path that we are sort of supposed to, I think before we're even officially dead, like our body is dead, I think part of our soul is kind of already in heaven. Because, I mean, and they're literally telling me, like, of course, yes, it is, because that's what our intuition is. Like, that's where the piece of our soul is like kind of already in heaven. And while I may be saying like heaven to you guys, like I was raised Catholic. And so that's just kind of like my perception of it. I do not believe in hell also. Let's get into that. There's no such thing as hell. Nobody goes to hell. Everybody just goes to a place of learning after this. And I guess we're just getting right into this. But the first thing after you cross over that you typically see is like, you know, whoever your loved ones, whoever like you really have like a strong soul tie to, there's like people that are typically like designated that will help bring you over, if that makes sense. Like, so when you're first like getting pulled over there's going to be somebody that like has done it before. You know, they've already pulled somebody over. So like you'll have the easiest time getting over there. It'll also be somebody that you love that like makes you very joyous. And this is kind of going back to like the till human voices wakes us and then we drown. So people who are crossing over, and this is from like a book, like a hospice nurse wrote this book. She says that people will typically hallucinate, like when they're kind of coming to the end of the line. And some of you guys might have realized this with loved ones. Yeah, it's not necessarily a hallucination. They are actually seeing their loved ones in the room. Sometimes they'll see them on the ceiling, on the floor, sitting right next to them. It doesn't matter. These are like actually their loved ones, and they'll start having conversations with their loved ones like they're already in the room. So when I say that like before we even cross, a piece of our mind is already in heaven, that's kind of what I'm talking about, is like they're like they're in the in between, basically. It's like they're not officially dead, their body is still here, but they are now talking to other people on the other side as if the other side is here, because like it's very interesting. Oh my gosh. And we'll get into like more spooky stories and like all of this for the future. But for today, I just wanted to discuss this incredibly difficult and amazing topic because I've just been obsessed with it. And I just wanted to start this off with something really, really strong, right? And very entertaining and very engaging, because this topic is very, very entertaining. Yeah. So they're also bringing to my mind like near death experiences. Like that's one of the things that where people kind of like be in that in between state, right? It's like they're not officially dead, but they're like kind of getting there. And sometimes, again, it's not their time. And so that's when they'll come back and complete their cycle and then die at a completely other time. Like that's why you'll hear stories of people that, for example, I know a guy that flew a football field's worth after a car accident. He's an incredible, incredible guy, but he flew a football field's worth after getting hit by a car and is still breathing and living today. Obviously, there was a huge period of recovery, but what I'm trying to say is that, like, when it comes time for us to cross over, that is the time for us to cross over. And that is not necessarily something that we can control. We'll get into like other deeper topics a different time. But for now, I'm just going to stick to like the regular timeline of death, right? Like we come up to this portion of time in which like we could cross. So what I've learned from medium Alison Dubois is that when it is our time to cross and we're right on time, we're getting into it, right? Like that's normally like the more slower kind of crossings. Like that's normally when people will fall asleep and cross over. But if you are like, kind of stubborn, if your soul is more on the stubborn side, you're more likely to kind of like stay on this planet. And so if you sort of surpass the times in which you were meant to pass away and you start getting to the end of your timeline, that's when more of the kind of sudden deaths come into play. So that's when you hear about like car accidents or heart attacks or like just the really, really, really quick ones, basically. Like it's not like death by illness or anything like that. It's like, yeah, you got to the end of the timeline. You got to come up. It's your time to go, buddy. I hate to tell you. And this is like different for every single person that's on this planet. Like this isn't something that is the same for everybody. Right? Because obviously we're all going to cross over at different periods and different times of our life, and if we're lucky enough, we will get it where it's like we get to hallucinate a little bit before we actually jump over, before we actually make the jump and cross over. So that is kind of the gist on crossing over, right? Till human voices wakes us. So again, that's the hallucination, right? Like we're kind of already being awoken on the other side, and then we drown, aka, and then our body passes away and fully lets our soul like lift up. But that's why it's so painless. And that's how they keep it so painless too, because that was my biggest concern. I was like, that's like one of the biggest reasons now why I'm afraid to cross. Before, I didn't even know if anything existed over there. There was no way to prove it, and I'm a very like evidential person. I love the evidence. Like I like having things confirmed right in front of my face, and so if there's nothing to confirm it, I don't even believe it. That's why for the longest time there, I literally didn't even believe mediums. Like I would be like, okay, yeah, but you could just be saying generalized attributes of like a person and that could apply to somebody, like it's the logical side of my brain. Like that's when I tell you guys, when I started off as a psychologist, like studying to be a psychologist, like I really, really, really loved that. I loved the logical side of everything, right? Like, and so realizing that like I was a psychic was kind of like very ingraspable. Very, very, very strange and weird to grasp. But yeah, I'm a very evidential person. And so I just didn't really like believe in mediums as much as I really, really wanted to. But that was up until EEG technology came out. And since souls, spirits are energy, we can easily pick them up with EEG technology. So that is, again, something else I'll get into another episode. But that is basically what then made me start to believe, okay, there is something beyond this lifetime. Like, there is clearly something beyond this lifetime because, you know, and still, I still did not want to believe mediums until I could do it myself. Also, my next qualm, my next problem that I then had was that, is it going to be painful? And like you hear the stories all the time of people being like, no, it's not painful. Like, no, it's not painful, you know, but it's still just like, I don't know for sure how it's going to feel. And so that's basically why they led me to this poem, to help me to realize that like, it's basically impossible for us to feel pain in this body if we're not spiritually in this body. Does that make sense? I don't know if that'll make sense to anybody, but that's how they basically explained it to me. So I just thought that was so unique and so interesting. But let's get into what actually happens then when you cross over. Now, this is something that I learned from psychic medium Laura Lynne Jackson. I love Laura Lynne Jackson. I could literally have a whole episode designated to the mediums that I love because I love them so much. I could literally rant about them, and I think I will eventually, and kind of show you guys like the difference between like what makes them so real versus a fake medium and how to tell what's a fake medium basically. But Laura Lynne Jackson talked about how when we cross over, the first thing that we do is we go through a life review. And we go through a life review with like our creator, like with our God, gods, goddesses, with Jesus, Buddha. I feel like that's kind of the vibe. Like whoever you kind of like vibe with, like that's who's going to basically go through your life with you, if that makes sense. So you will go through when you were born to the day that you died. All of the life choices that you should have, could have, would have made, what would have happened if you would have made those, how you affected other people's lives, how you should have done things differently to follow more of your heart and your soul path and the things that you love. So it's very intense of a moment. So you can imagine that like, if you are like a bad person, you're going to have to be up in the heavens basically for a long time because you're going to have a lot to go through just in the life review alone, like in everything that you shoulda, coulda, woulda done differently, you know? But it's just so difficult. It definitely is so, like, I mean, it's not difficult. It's not difficult to be a nice person. It's really not. Like, and the more you do it, the easier it gets, right? But for some people, like, it's just like, once they get up there, it's like, well, shit. Like, I had so many different chances and choices, and like, I could have done so differently. And that's the other thing, too, like, why you don't want to be a bad person is because then the other side basically has to hire somebody to bring you through. And I'm putting this in very humanistic terms. That's not the word. Humanistic terms. I'm putting this in very humanistic terms, but basically the other side will have to hire somebody to help bring you through because nobody's going to want to be over there in your heaven, if that makes sense, because nobody really loved you in this lifetime if you're a bad person. Think about like Scrooge, you know, from the Christmas Carol. He's like one of my favorite examples. Like when they were bringing him through like all of the different past, present, and future, like he saw his future. He saw that when he had his funeral, nobody showed up because he was a terrible person. He didn't care about anybody. He was very greedy, very egotistical, held on to his money like nobody else's business. Like he was like, nobody's getting this, not even the people who need it the most, you know? So nobody came to his funeral. Nobody showed up for him. And that's why it's so important to be like a good person in this lifetime. And if you're even questioning if you're a good person, chances are like you probably are, because you're at least empathizing and starting to, you know, realize. Majority of people that I attract here, I'm sure, are like angels. Like you guys are literally earthbound angels, I swear. But that's why it's so important to be like a good person in this lifetime, because like it really, really, really makes a difference. Like on top of the life review, then we kind of go through like lessons and learnings, and we will like do different things in heaven, like play through maybe different scenarios too, is what they just kind of showed me. Yeah, and on top of that, psychic medium again, Alison Dubois. I adore her also. I really, really love her. I really vibe with her too. Like there's been a lot of weird synchronicities. I know I'm gonna meet her like eventually. I might even become like close with her. Like this is just something I'm hypothesizing, because like the synchronicities like in our lives are just like really weird. Like it's very, very weird. Like I opened up a random book the other day and there was an entire chapter designated to her. And this is after I spent like an entire freaking library search looking for her books, looking around. But psychic medium Alison Dubois has basically talked about that our heaven is our life. This lifetime that we are living and that we are creating right now is what our heaven is going to be. So we can go back to any point in time in our lives. Like we can either jump around to multiple different points that bring us like happiness, bring us joy. Or if there's like one particular point in your life that like, and your soul will know this, like this won't be something that like you have to think about right now because you have a lot of ego affecting it. But your soul will know like when you felt the most happiest. Like that could be your wedding day. That could be when you have your first child. That could be when you adopt your first pet, get your first house all by yourself, start up a company, start up a business. It's at any of those points. And then at any point in time, you can also go back in the timeline to like replay different memories that you had that were very, very satisfying over and over and over again. So in terms of like heaven, that makes a lot of sense then why reincarnation exists, right? And again, like I'm a Catholic talking about this stuff. I feel like there's not a lot of Catholics out there that believe in reincarnation, but I believe in it 112,000%. Like, again, I could do a whole other episode on just reincarnation alone, but I just think it's so fascinating. And this is the reason why people want to come back to Earth, because they either missed out on some big love of their life, you know? Maybe they made the wrong choice in love and realized like way later on, oh my God, that person was the one and I completely messed this up. Or, you know, maybe they didn't get to start the business that they wanted to, or they didn't get to have the family that they wanted to. So on, so forth. Like whatever it is that their soul was most craving of them to do, they didn't end up actually getting to do it. And so in that sense, that's why they end up coming back to Earth, soul recycling, as they call it, because they didn't get to have those experiences that they wanted to. So they're basically forced to come back and relive it all over again and create their heaven all over again. And so when you're thinking about this lifetime right now, it does not matter how old you are. It does not matter how many life experiences you've had, whether you're married, unmarried, with children, without children, whatever in the world is happening. This right now is your heaven. How can you make every single day filled with a little bit more magic? So that way you will want to come back and relive this and relive this and relive this. And some people out there might be thinking to themselves, like, I don't know, like, I feel like I'm too old, or whatever. Like, I feel like that's something that I hear a lot from a lot of people, is that like, I'm too old. Like, I don't know. I can't, period. And like, I feel like we have to start rethinking this whole phrase, like, I'm too old, because, and this is like a little bit of personal tea, but I have worked with retired sisters, retired nuns from, I don't even know, like 80 to 104. And I will tell you guys, the quickest way to age yourself is to act your age, if that makes sense. Because I knew some of the sisters there that were 99 years old, freaking wheeling around, like tearing up gravel, because they were just kind of just zooming past me, And they were 99 years old, fully cognizant, everything. So if you're sitting there and saying to yourself, like, I'm too old or whatever, change your attitude, because there is always things that you can do to check things off your bucket list. Make a bucket list. Check that off your bucket list. To have the first one be make a bucket list. And then you can check it off, and there you go. You're already started. You're already on your way. Yeah. And I'm big into manifesting, big into visualizing and all of this, vision boarding. I already have a big head start on my vision board, so I'll definitely be making an episode about that as well. But I just wanted to kind of bring this to everybody's attention, because when I learned about this, I was like, that clicks so easily in my brain. I'm like, that makes so much sense now. Like, not only why we have more souls, but also like why we have so many to begin with, Yeah, and we'll get into like soul recycling and all of that in like a different day too. I feel like that'll be all about reincarnation. Like, that episode will be all about reincarnation. But I just want to start y'all off with like a little introduction as to what happens when we cross over. Why is it so important to be a good person in this lifetime? And as I'm asking these questions, definitely try to reflect on what you've learned in this episode too. And try to think about how you can apply it more to your life. Which is interesting, because at the way beginning of this too, we actually talked about creating more good karma, getting in the flow of good karma, and how you can create more good karma in your life overall. Karma, karma, karma. Karma, 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 chameleon. Okay, I don't want to do too much in case of, what would they do? It's just me saying it. Like, what could they do? But you never know. With the technology that we have today, you guys, it's crazy. So crazy. Yeah, and that's another reason, like, not to have like an excuse as to like not to live your life, right? Because this is the heaven that we're making right now. So no excuses. No excuses as to like, I can't do this or I can't do that. Yes, you can. You can find a way. There's always a way. There literally always is a way. I love that quote from Audrey Hepburn that says, like, nothing is impossible. Even the word itself says, I'm possible. And like, I can't pass him. Okay, anyways. It's literally just like, I love that quote so much. It's so cheesy, but it's so true. The word itself literally says, I'm possible. So really be thinking about that. Why is it important to be a good person in this lifetime? Not only for like the sake of your ego, but also think about how it affects everybody else around you too. How being a good person affects and makes the lives of everybody else around you feel. Right? And then also think about, how are you creating your heaven on earth as we speak? How am I creating my heaven on earth as we're speaking right now? Think about that. What can I do to make this lifetime even more heavenly? Yeah. And I even just got like a download where I saw like this woman does this absolutely insane abstract kind of decorating like all over her house. Like it's very like disco ball lights and paintings with weird lines and weird edges to all of it, carpets with weird lines and weird edges. And she gets a lot of comments of people that are just like super negative. That's what I, honest to God, like this is my tea right now. Like I don't really fucks with Instagram. Like the Instagram commenters are like pretty mean. Like I'm trying to be more nice on there to kind of set up a better example for everybody on there. Like just be kind to other people, because if it makes them happy, it makes them happy. This is not your life. This is not your life. And if that's the thing that some of you guys are worried about, because that's the other thing too. Some people say I'm too old. Other people say, well, what will people think of me? Right? Because people will probably be thinking of you. Oh my God. And this wraps it up perfectly, because it goes right back to the beginning of this, where we talked about if you're not making people mad, if you're not making people happy, if you're just kind of gliding in the in-between, you're not doing it right. Okay? Because you should be making some people pissed with your choices. Like that woman that's decorating this house completely abstractly. She is making people so upset with it because it looks how she wants her house to look. But if you think about it from the heaven perspective, she's going to be able to go back, kick it in this gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous place anytime that she wants to. And it looks exactly like the way that she wants it to look. Yeah. They're even saying like Hygge-ifying your house. Hygge, Hygge, is a Dutch term, I believe. And it just kind of talks about like cozying up your place a little bit. Cozying up your atmosphere and your space, adding candles, soft blankets, pillows, cozy music, literally anything. Make your space, make your life more heavenly. Okay? And that's how we're going to end it for today. What happens when we die? Now you guys know. And again, it's all based off of the T.S. Eliot quote, which I'm obsessed with. Till human voices wake us and we drown. So cool. Alrighty. I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys would like to join a community of like-minded, spiritual, baddie, beautiful, talented, intelligent, incredible, amazing, I love them community, you can feel free to join our Discord. Again, the links will be either down below or wherever you are listening to this. And if you want to see more from me, the Dick Witch, you can check out my YouTube channel or my personal YouTube channel, Anais Benedict. I love you baddies so, so, so much. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.